I think what you just said is not motivation. I think that's meaning and purpose. And you're aligning your long-term meaning and purpose, which is taking care of your family, making sure your daughters are healthy. To me, that's meaning. And meaning can drive motivation, but it also allows you to really orient the path that you're building your systems around. And I think meaning is, I do think it's different.
Welcome back to another episode of Past Your Prime. We are here to talk about motivation for episode 19. I'm Alex, Spiker Keicher on Instagram, Craig Smith PT on Instagram. He's a physical therapist. I spike volleyballs.
You spike volleyballs.
Yeah.
He spikes volleyballs and injures himself repeatedly and aggressively.
Very aggressive.
Very aggressively.
Yeah.
That's actually why we are doing the episode that we're doing today, is because he hurts himself.
So let's quickly go into Alex's injury updates.
Once again, I feel great. Alex's injury updates.
So it might be easier just to say the things that don't hurt today.
Let's list the things that don't hurt.
So my left calf, my left leg from the knee down feels great. My left arm also feels pretty good. And I think my mid back is doing okay right now.
Okay, so to review, that is a lot of things that hurt you right now.
Yeah, so from the bottom up, my right foot is still feeling weird. My right calf hurts. My right knee hurts. My right hamstring hurts. My left TFL hurts. My right tricep hurts. My right bicep hurts. And my right shoulder hurts. And my right wrist is still recovering from being broken.
Now, you did say that that's actually feeling good, though.
Yeah, I think the nerve pain is almost gone. So I will say I have ramped up my activity a lot, but I do think that it has improved my wrist, which is the original reason that I needed to do a lot of the things that I'm currently doing.
Yeah, so I wonder if all of our tens of listeners are wondering if you enjoy hurting yourself.
We're actually into the hundreds.
We are in the hundreds now, actually. That's right.
Very low 100s.
Subscriber
count. I think 101 across all platforms.
Nice.
But thank you guys for subscribing. If you haven't yet, just throw us a quick subscription. It's free. We'd appreciate it.
I think that 98 of them are my family.
2 of them are my family.
Okay, so we have.
There's our 100.
I appreciate the one person who has no relationship to us who subscribed.
Oh, that's great. Anyway, so we are here to talk about motivation. I don't even know how you want to start this one.
Well, I think I would like to lead into it because Alex and I have had conversations around motivation, and I think my belief around it is heavily influenced by my clinical experience, where I find motivation to be sometimes actually not even just not helpful, but it can actually harm someone. Because if motivation shifts, like if you're relying on motivation during the course of a therapeutic treatment plan, if you're doing it trying to get somebody to exercise and they are motivation heavy, meaning that they have a high motivation, and you don't do the other stuff to ground it, to make the action happen over and over again, I find motivation to be one of the worst tools in the tool bag. It's there, but it's one of them that, like, when I think of every system that I've built around people being physically active, carrying out their home plan, getting buy-in, I almost systematically assume low to no motivation. But during the course of our conversations, what's become really clear is motivation for you is actually fundamental.
I don't know what you mean by fundamental, but
it's something that drives a huge portion of your actions. Like you'll have something happen, and then it almost like becomes this emotional supercharge that then gets you to go do something that day.
Yeah. A lot of the things that I guess I'm quote unquote motivated to do, I feel like I just have to do now. And I'm wondering how that'll kind of affect our conversation for today.
Well, actually, why don't we just dive into that? Because that's actually a really interesting one, the way you just said that. What do you mean by have to do?
I think it's the put yourself on the calendar phrase that we've used several times.
Okay.
I just make a plan to do it and I follow through on that plan. So I think there are times, and I know we just talked about what last night's motivation looked like for me. I don't know if we want to jump into that.
Please, just to give the backstory of your absurdity.
Okay, so we just had my injury update. I'm not feeling great pretty much anywhere. I did get myself ready for the gym before putting my 5-year-old to sleep. I was dead exhausted. I've gone to the gym every day this week thus far. Last night it was like 8:15 and I was full on snoring in her bed. I wake myself up from my sleep apnea, and I'm in my stretchy pants. Craig likes to highlight that I wear stretchy pants. And I had that moment that I've had a couple of times, not super often, where like I walk by my bedroom door to go downstairs, and I can see the bed, and the bed looks so nice and welcoming and inviting. And I just keep walking. I just walked on downstairs. It was probably the least plan that I had going into a workout in the last, I'd say, at least 2 months. I'm usually sticking to a very specific workout plan. I couldn't really do anything on any of my workout plans. I could probably do like one exercise from each of the 5. So that's kind of what I did. I went in and I was able to do some abs, did some leg extensions, did some light hamstring work, did some of the bridges, which Craig suggested for my hamstring injury, which is probably my most significant right now. And once again, I just got myself there. I knew if I got myself there, I'd do something. I rode the bike for like 10 minutes, just trying to like keep myself active, hopefully from a therapeutic standpoint, not going in and just trying to kill myself, which we've talked about in the past is what I generally like to do. I felt like I was more mindful. I don't know if just going to bed would have been a better option than not doing anything, but in terms of the motivation aspect of it, like I was still very driven to go in and do something.
So he said a lot, and I actually want to work through all of the pieces, because what I would say, the reason he got there, and that it is a good thing that he still went, even though he was still having pain everywhere, and he modified everything to make it feel better. And we'll also come back to the reason that he keeps on burying himself in a little bit, because I'd like to work through.
I want to know too
how he can quit burying himself. And it is to me, it's an issue of his athleticism, and his previous history and success with exercise allows him to push past his tissue capacity everywhere when he gets in the groove, which is why he's now collecting all of these injuries. If we have time today, we're on a little bit of a time crunch, we'll hit it. If we don't, we will come back to it, because this is an incredibly common problem where people will we call it phase 3 or activity progression. That's solidly where he is at, but he's at the end of it. And because he's feeling so much better, he's now pushing dramatically harder, and he's doing it more consistently at a higher level, which allows him to go past his tissue capacity in multiple areas. We call it the new issue. I mean, it's not that creative, but when we start to see this collection of new injuries, that is classic phase 3 activity progression issue. And it's more common in people who have had a longer training history, just right off the bat.
You're going to change that to being past your prime.
Yeah, when you're past your prime. Yeah, so phase 3, past your prime.
Well, and I think that like my athleticism, I've seen a massive increase in my athleticism over the last 2 months, and I think that is another thing that's motivating me, is like I'm seeing performance gains. I want to continue to push those performance gains, and now I'm a dumpster fire.
Dude, come on. So first off, number one, why was it still a good idea for him to go work out? Because exercise relapse, or people stopping exercise, is no joke. And if you get into a habit of not working out, not moving, and where you stop going, getting started again is dramatically harder. We call it an exercise relapse. It's mentioned in the literature. Not exercising has certain features where if you quit, and you quit for a period of time, there's no guarantee you're going to go back to it. And like we said at the beginning of our podcast, that's the number one thing that you can do for your own health, is to stay physically active habitually all the time. So even though, I don't want people to hurt, I don't want a new injury, at the end of the day, we also don't want to overvalue pain and undervalue the positive effects, like your cardiovascular system, how your body handles inflammation, brain function. I mean, the list is incredibly one-sided of how good it is for you to be physically active. The fact that you still win, even though he's a dumpster fire, is still like a big deal.
You were digging through a dumpster today,
I
so
literally
throw that in.
Oh my Lord. To start the day, we had a lot of obstacles that we overcame. One is me dropping the mouse and it exploding. And Alex tried to put it together.
Successfully did, but it
It
did not
did,
function.
but it did not function. There were significant portions of its guts everywhere. And then I threw it away, not realizing that the USB dongle also worked for the keyboard. So I had to go through the trash.
But
Thank
we're
you for
here.
bringing that up.
We're
Yeah,
here
appreciate it.
and we're motivated.
Ridiculous. Okay, so number two, what I think you leaned into was that you have mastered or developed a very, very clear system for not allowing sleep or allowing the lure of going to sleep to pull you from doing activity. And you did it systematically. Before you got into help your daughter go to sleep, you put on your stretchy pants, right?
You don't have to laugh at that.
It's ridiculous. You also have everything ready to go so that you literally just have to stand up and walk out.
Grab my gym bag and I'm going.
And then when you walk past the door, what's interesting is it almost sounds like you have a mantra of like, no, like this isn't, I'm not going to go lay down. And this sounds silly that something seems so simple is so powerful, but you know that your biggest barrier is walking by your bedroom door.
And I just think about it the whole time I'm laying there in my daughter's
Yeah.
bed that like, I could just go to sleep right now. But then I just walk right past that door.
You have systematically worked through everything that's going to make you not go. And so to me, you have motivation, but I would have actually said your motivation was almost at the lowest it could be, but you still went.
I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he had everything against him. And that is to me the difference between relying on motivation, which would have been perfect circumstances. You're jacked up because everything's feeling great. You have all these like great things are happening. You have all this extra energy. I would say you were in an incredibly low motivation state, but you still went. And that's one of the reasons why I just don't think motivation is how you build the structure of getting things done, because system will always be temporary motivation. Like over and over again, a system like that. I mean, it is explicitly clear, but if you wrote down like this is what I do every night, and you find any hole anytime you don't actually go and you find out where that's at, and you also address that, that's how you get to the point where it is a system. Like, okay, I didn't go tonight because my daughter stayed up too late. What could I do differently? And there's like these other things that could happen that you start to build everything towards this idea that I always go when I want to go. And we don't think often enough about all of the barriers that stop us. And so that was masterful. That didn't just happen. It doesn't surprise me that you went. It's more just that I think if you made it more explicit, and then if you're listening to this at home, if you struggle with this, it's like being extremely explicit on the actions that get you there. That is the number one issue that everyone has, is actually getting to the place where you're going to do your physical activity. And once you master that, all the other stuff, those are skills that you can then build because you're actually there, but you can't build them if you don't show up.
That makes sense. And I do think that there's a difference between maybe some long-term motivation. I think you just mentioned short-term motivation. And I've got two daughters. Like, I could not look like this in 10 years. I need to be 20 pounds more muscle and much scarier looking in, 15 years when I've got a teenager or two teenage girls.
You don't think the mustache does that?
Not enough.
Not enough.
Not
Okay.
enough. The voice is pretty scary. I can make it a little bit deeper and scarier, and that I'm sure that'll work in certain scenarios.
I've seen you go like intense, Alex, and it's pretty intense.
Yeah. I just need the physique to
Okay.
match it.
Yeah.
And then I think the other long-term motivation is just my athletic goals and overall health. So yeah. So
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
A little difference in my mindset between like the day-to-day motivation and kind of my long-term goals.
Well, even there, I know it sounds like semantics, but I really do think this is important. I think what you just said is not motivation. I think that's meaning and purpose. And you're aligning your long-term meaning and purpose, which is taking care of your family, making sure your daughters are healthy. To me, that's meaning. And meaning can drive motivation, but it also allows you to really orient the path that you're building your systems around. And I think meaning I do think it's different. I don't know. You
No, I
understand
like
what I'm
that. I
saying?
mean, it seems deeper. It
Yeah.
makes it sound deeper and more like a positive spin on things.
I often think when I have someone who, for example, won't commit to even testing something out. Like, for example, if I have somebody comes in and they want to get healthy, but it's really clear that they're self-sabotaging all the time. I always think of like what brought you in here that you're not willing to commit to things that you know are going to make you healthier, or do the things that you know will allow us to at least learn and find a way to move you forward. And I always think that it ends up coming down to a misapplication of what their meaning and purpose in life is. And sometimes what can happen is you can get twisted where you become the person who has pain all the time. Like, what if you become this new person who isn't that, doesn't always have symptoms? Or what if, what if you're not the person who plays volleyball anymore? You know, like I remember when I went through not being able to play college sports anymore, and that whole experience was weird, but it was straight up the death of an identity. And I probably shouldn't have continued playing it even as long as I did because I kept on having these recurring ankle injuries. I think I was getting neuropathic symptoms before that I didn't understand, didn't have terms around. And going through that process of like, I know I'm not going to be an athlete anymore, at least to the level that I was. And it's scary. And it also makes you do things that don't actually match where you want to go. And that like misapplication of meaning or not really understanding where and who do you want to be, motivation won't overcome that because you'll be motivated in the wrong direction.
That like hits home. I'm like thinking to myself, like, man, should I stop playing volleyball? I'm gonna lose my identity.
uh, no, it's crazy. No, you won't lose your identity. You'll still be able to play volleyball and teach it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just playing at a high level for me has been so important because the other times that I go to play, at least in town, like I'm generally one of the better players. And it's a different feeling when you're playing at the highest level that you can achieve versus just going to play recreationally,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. And I'd imagine that's probably even deeper in football because it's like, what are my other options? Like I go from playing, college football to I'm in the flag football league now. And
Yeah, mine was weird in that I went from being what I thought was athletic to something that was just broken. And it was isolating, like socially isolating for me. So there was a lot of things that were just very uncomfortable in that experience. And but once I what was awesome about that is that experience really helped align what I wanted to where I wanted to move forward towards, which was helping people who
not
want
be
to be
broken
active.
all the time.
Yeah, not and not even that, like, because pain in itself can be a fantastic pain can be a powerful experience. And if you can get past it being scary, I often think that pain in itself, it's the fear of it that's the hardest part to manage. If you haven't had this type of pain, but there's sometimes where you'll get pain that you can't get out from underneath of. It's just like constant. It's there. Doesn't matter what medication you take. Doesn't matter what treatment you apply. And it is like one of those things that it is an incredible experience the first time you go through it. And I hope you don't ever go through it. But if you ever experience that, it does change how you view the world afterwards. And when I went through that, it it really did mess with my head like a lot because I went from being somebody who I could go out and I could do a sport and I felt good. I didn't have to have a lot of experience with it, and I could play at a top level, to somebody who I couldn't get out of the bed in the morning without like my leg giving out. That experience was just one of those things that it really changes how you approach life. But it does come back to this, like there's parts of it where motivation in the short term, and I think motivation is a short term thing. And if it's misaligned with meaning, it doesn't work well. Whereas like with yours, one of the big things that you just said, and I'll kind of bring it back to your story with your daughter, you aligned motivation, short term motivation with meaning, which makes motivation, to me, in its only way, powerful and useful.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think like we mentioned a couple times, like that takes it a layer deeper where if you put a system in place to do the things that help you reach your long-term goals, then motivation almost becomes irrelevant.
Hmm.
And we talked about this before, but like I feel like I have to do these things now. And I've gone through phases of this in my life where I have to go to the gym and now it's I don't know, it's just much more a part of my routine and what makes me feel good overall. And I think that yeah, it kind of does
Yeah,
play into how you're explaining it,
it's
which
now your
is
identity.
yeah,
Right.
more of an identity piece than yeah, that was deep.
All right, man.
Going deep
Good.
on a Friday morning. All righty.
I like it.
So something you just mentioned is that folks will come in and you're having to kind of talk about motivation. Are they just saying like I don't feel motivated lately, or they've got so much pain that they don't want to do things? Like you mentioned, there's things that they don't want to do. Is that just like starting an exercise routine, or is that specific pieces of?
That's a yes. That is exactly. So what will happen? I never ask about motivation ever because I don't want them to depend on motivation. I find motivation to be the easy out. I wasn't motivated this week, so I didn't do it. So I actually never do that. What I do is I try to create a home plan that I think is simple and that they showed they could execute in the moment. Like I'm just talking about the beginning of PT, but they come back in and they can't. Well, now it's like, oh, that was interesting. So there's like either you couldn't carry it out. So then what I'll do is I'll ask them to do the home plan without me really helping to cue it up, and they can either perform or they can't. If they can perform it, now we're at something where something has gone off, right? There's something that's off because they can actually do the activity and but they did not do it. The reverse is they can't do it at all. Well, then I actually picked an activity that was just outside their skill set and I regress it or repractice it till they can do it inside the session. It would actually surprise you how often individuals are given this massive home plan, a technical home plan where they have like 30 exercises when they come in to see us, like before they see our team, and they can't carry out more than one or two of those exercises. What a stupid work exercise plan from a professional. They can't even carry out the activities that were given to them, and you expect them to actually make it better. More likely, they're going to hurt themselves. But to go back, so if they don't do the activity and it's within their ability to do it, well, now we have an error of something. There's an ability that they're missing. They don't understand how to use a prompt to get them to do the activity. So it's like something's not bringing it to their head, right? For example, pain is the most useful prompt because once it hurts, I can be like, okay, as soon as you hurt, this is when you're going to apply the plan. Sometimes people don't get a feedback loop. So now, okay, well, every time that you drink a glass of water, I want you to do the home plan. I don't drink water. Okay, well, now what do you do? And then you link it to an activity and then habit stacking, which comes from James Clear with Atomic Habits.
Okay.
Uh, the habit stack is such a useful tool because everybody has habits and you can basically take a habit and you can hijack it. And once you hijack a habit to do something that's healthy, you literally start to go down the route of like, okay, you already have the skill to do things because everybody does something. You just have to take one piece of it and then turn it into whatever you actually want to accomplish.
I've hijacked the skill of going to bed. Apparently,
You straight up have.
I kind
You
of
straight
have.
up have. Yeah. I love that. I mean, I love it because you don't think about it often. Mine was I hated flossing. I hated flossing so much, and so I had to use. And I also get extremely tired at night. So I'm an extreme morning person. Like my brain just turns on
At like 3 o'clock in the
3 o'clock.
morning, he texts me. He's like, "Hey,
I don't know what it is. I've been like that since I was a kid. Like if you hear stories from my mom, like I would wake up, and I think they taught me how to do everything in the morning because I would get up too early. They were like, "We are not waking up with you. You're a
go take out the
monster.
trash."
Yeah,
Yeah.
these are your tasks." But I had to basically put it around something that I was already doing, which is just like the night behaviors that I would do at night. Everyone has that as a tool.
Well, now you also mentioned something that I was thinking about in terms of having to make people's home plans so easy that they actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
I compare that to when we were working on my workout plan and you made it so easy that I didn't do it. I just did something way harder.
So that's
my
that was a
motivation.
mistake on my point. Yeah.
My motivation system must be just completely jacked up based on some of the clinical talks you've
No,
done. But
no, I actually like it because I like what you've done. The beautiful part about all this stuff is I really don't think you recognize how skilled you've become at accomplishing things that you want to do. You have so many reasons not to be active, but I think the skill that you're missing is, I don't know if the right word is temperance. You don't know how to bring it to the point where you can handle it and your body has a good response. It's like as soon as you feel like you're feeling good, you're like, you know what I'm going to do?
ramp it up
I'm gonna ramp it up
50%.
50. But I'm actually comfortable because I actually think this is the next skill for you to learn. The next skill for him to learn is what is your tissue capacity and how do you quit exceeding it? It doesn't bother me at all that he keeps on blowing himself up. I think it is funny. It actually really started to reduce your your ability to do activity, we would have a much different response. But he's learning, and this is the purpose of phase 3. It's a purpose of learning what your tissue capacity is, and you're having to reorient around a body that's performing at a higher level. So your exercise capacity has grown, but his tissue capacity in some areas has not matched it yet. And once we get those unified, well, now we're in exercise and going towards performance, and he can level up like crazy. But to be honest, I don't think you've ever matched him. I think you've compensated in hidden areas of your body where the tissue capacity is not equal, and now you're not.
Definitely since tearing my calf, I think. I think that was kind of like my cutoff where overall, I mean, I had to take a significant amount of time off just to try and rehab my calf. I was still doing other things, but the calf was, I think we were like 6 months it took to like fully rehab that to where I felt like I was close to my previous capacity. I don't think the tissue capacity was there, and the tissue capacity I don't think will ever be the same. So that's a tough one. And then I think all of what you just said just came full circle yesterday, where I kind of didn't have a choice but to temper myself. My body finally was like, no, you've hit your limits. You've got to take it easy. But then once again, whether it's motivation or just, more deep rooted emotional motivation, whatever we'll want to call it, kicked in and was like, you're still going to go and do something to better yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it, man. It's not as big of a failure. Injuries are not a failure. Injuries are an opportunity to change something. And you're going to go through the rehab. Your tissue's going to heal. It's going to change your mindset, and you're going to apply a new strategy, and it's going to be more successful because of it. You don't have to feel bad if you get hurt. Everybody will have an injury. If you remember back to the very first episode, I think it was the first episode we did, you can't prevent injuries.
Right.
You're going to have an injury. And sometimes what happens is people will think that they made a mistake. If you keep on having the same one happen because you punch a brick wall and you keep breaking your hand, yeah, that is your fault. But if it's because you're just living your life and all of a sudden you have something happen, I don't think that's preventable. I think that you want to triage it as fast as you can and go after it. Now with Alex, I think this is a usable and very valuable experience where he has basically put himself into a hole. Did you say you have 3 functional body parts now?
Give or take. Yeah.
Give or take. Yeah, his body is a straight up dumpster fire. And if his daughters were older and the potential boyfriend did show up, he would not be able to do anything. So by throwing that out there, his motivation to get healthier is going to be higher because it's going to really land well on his meaning, and it's going to deepen his motivation, but it's also going to tell him I have to do it with a better system in mind. And he has to also recognize that his motivation, like when it hits like a high peak, he has to put something in place to temper his action so he doesn't go overboard, right? So this is where motivation can actually turn on you and actually cause you to have a bigger issue. Motivation is not his problem. Over motivation is a problem within a single workout. So he's overreaching single workout, underperforming long term. And that's one of those things that's he's going to switch it because it's the next skill for him to learn.
I didn't tell you, but I was feeling amazing on Sunday. Well, we recorded on Sunday.
Yes.
I played volleyball that afternoon, and like I windmilled a volleyball. I was like,
whoa,
yeah, something happened in my body where I was like the most athletic I've been in at least a year. And so I came into Monday super motivated, through the roof, feeling amazing. My wrist is feeling good. My body feels good. So I went and max deadlifted. I went and max squatted. And then I played volleyball on Tuesday. And I think because of those max deadlifts, I pulled my hammy. And then coming into Wednesday, I was like, okay, well, my lower body is blown up. I'll just do upper body. And I was still extremely motivated. So I did some max every upper body. And now my tricep and bicep on my right side hurt. So I do see that motivation can be detrimental
yes,
in certain areas.
Yes, in certain areas.
Need to be able to temper myself because I have a problem.
Everybody has a new skill for them to learn, especially when you get stuck in this. Right now, yours is just understanding how to use your motivation to help you be more effective and not so destructive. But if you're somebody who's struggling, right, to actually show up, high motivation in the short term can help. I would also attach it to the meaning that you have behind the activity you're doing. And then as quickly as possible, develop a skill that allows you to do it easier in the future so you're not relying on motivation. Systemize it and really make it so that you have the ability to show up when you have no motivation whatsoever. And there's some other stuff that we'll be able to get into. I know we're going to have to cut it short today. Was there anything else that you wanted to add?
One of my favorite life mantras is attitude is a choice. And I can relate that to motivation, because motivation is just a choice. It's a choice to do it or not do it. You said with people with their home plans, you either do it or you don't do it. It's just a yes or a no. There's probably a lot of in between there, but if you break it down into the most simplest form, yes, I'm going to go, or no, I'm not going to go. Yes, I'm going to be intentional. No, I'm not going to be intentional. I think there's something else to pick out there. In closing, what are you telling somebody that's just looking to start from scratch? I know you've done a lot of talks on this clinically and have done a lot of research on motivation, but
I mean, the biggest thing is that even what you just said is a skill.
Right.
The ability to understand how, when you have no motivation, how do you still do the activity? Attitude, right? Attitude is a choice. It is, but some people don't realize it is. And so right off the bat, like, that is a skill to realize, oh, I don't have to be miserable today. I don't have to act on how I feel. There's skills in those things, and it's unfortunate, but I don't think most people realize that they have a lot more agency around their response to whatever's happening. And I think the first thing is just to realize you have agency, that failure in the moment can actually be an opportunity in the long term. I kind of came out randomly, but to dig into what your actual meaning is, like, why are you doing what you're doing? Like, you could just turtle up and do nothing and die. But if you decide, right, I hope you don't do that. The world's better if you're here. So being the best version of yourself and working towards being the best version of yourself it's a fantastic and beautiful thing. And I think the world's better with more people in it who are highly motivated or who use their motivation in a useful way that aligns with their meaning, that develop new skills, and they use those skills to make themselves better. That's something I've committed my life to. And it's just very powerful once you understand that you have a lot of that power within you.
Yeah. Find your meaning.
Yeah.
If you like this episode, I really like this one and would be interested in continuing this conversation at some point. But if you like this episode, drop a comment below, let us know, and we can definitely dive deeper into some motivation topics. Aside from that, like, subscribe, share, follow. We're on all the platforms. Check us out on TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple.
Everywhere.
There's a couple other random ones that apparently we're on that we've got like half a follower. That's great too.
I didn't even know you could do half a follower, but that's true.
Yeah. Well, I'm only half a body right now, so.
Love it.
All righty. Thanks again, guys. PYP.
PYP, baby.
Peace.